Hey everyone. I had this little video planned out for last night, but I got a little too tired and a bit distracted. So here it is now. It's basically gonna be like a little announcement mixed with a memory talk. The memory talks have to do with what happened yesterday, the new Freedom Fest, and the announcement is mainly about the guy who was singing all those John Prine songs, Mark Henkelman. I put the link to his YouTube channel in the description below if you guys ever want to check out more of his stuff. But yeah, so not last year, but the year before, the New Freedom Fest was on September 17th, 2022. It happened to be on Hank Williams' birthday. And and I didn't see him last year. It was the year before when I met him, Mark Henkelman. It was either last year he didn't do a little performance, or we just missed him. I'm not sure. I could have sworn he didn't do a performance last year, but he did 2 years before, and I remember, and that's how I came across him. He was kind of at that stage near where the ponies were, and we noticed he was singing John Prine songs, and I guess after I got off the pony, my dad and I sat and watched him because we're big John Prine fans. He got me into John Prine when I was at a young age, and there are not many 20-year-olds that are into music like his. I'm into music that not many 20-year-olds are into. I get that from my dad. He's into a lot of underrated artists. John Prine kind of being one of them, and someone similar to him, Townes Van Zandt. I love Townes. But yeah, so we come across him 2 years ago. We sat and listened to him for a little while, and some people sat there for a little while and then they got up, mainly because I guess they don't really know a little who John Prine is, and he's kind of an underrated artist. They were probably expecting something more popular. So we sat there the longest, and I kind of myself thought he needed more attention, a little attention. So I actually got my dad took a picture of him and I 2 years ago. I don't have it anywhere, sorry. And he gave me a pic out of the complete blue. This is it right here. It's one of those Dunlop pics. You can't really see the letters because they're kind of worn out. And yeah, and so I saw him this year. We arrived at the New Freedom Fest like this year, yesterday. I guess a little closer to like 12:30 or 1. And he was actually almost done. We arrived and he was only had like 2 songs left. But after he stopped, after Angel from Montgomery was done, he saw me and he was like, "Hey, I remember you from last year." And I was like, "Oh, 2 years ago." He was like, I guess he went 2 years ago, that's right. And I said, "I'm 20 years old and I'm a big John Prine fan." And then he said, "Oh, good for you. Hope you like him when you're 60." And then I told him I graduated this year, and he also said, "Good for you." And at the end of his little gig, I interacted with him a little more and got him to sign one of my old elementary school yearbooks. I got one this year for my senior year, my yearbook, but the one I had him sign was like one of the first ones I got when I was in Spring Grove Elementary School. But yeah, and as soon as I told him, "I still got that pic you gave me," he immediately gave me another one, and it's the exact same kind, a red Dunlop, kind of with the letters worn out. So I have 2 of the exact same kind. How about that? I thought you guys would like to know that I've got 2 pics from him. And and real quick, today's the first day of fall, and John Prine has a song called Summer's End. It's off his last album from 2018 called Tree of Forgiveness. It's actually a pretty kick-ass album. The last song he did right before he died, it was very early 2020, circa January, it was called I Remember Everything, and he died on April 7th from COVID. I really missed him. We were so sad that day. But anyway, so yeah, New Freedom Fest is awesome. I remember my family kind of went to it in 2016, but I chose not to go. This was both 2016 and 17. I chose not to go. And it happened in 2000, and then it happened in 2018, but none of us went because my dad was working on a movie. It's called Shadows. It's on YouTube if you want to check it out. Warning, it does have a bit of explicit language. Some of you probably may not like it. But it's pretty good. It's very underrated. Another one of his movies is called The Bone Garden. My dad directs really low budget films, but they're still kick-ass. Anyway, and then I went for like one of the first times, I guess, in 2019. I might have went at the times like maybe before 2016, like when I was 9 or 10, maybe 8. I can't remember. I don't remember going to them in those years before 2016. But I went 2019. I got a couple of musicians to sign one of my old yearbooks. One of my yearbooks from when I was in Spring Grove Intermediate School from 2015 to 16. That's a school that they have that holds 5th and 6th graders. Dallastown has the same thing. And I got a couple of musicians to sign that. I forget what some of their names were, but the first one I got to sign my yearbook was members from a band called Blue Mac. I don't know anything about them. Of course, all these bands that come to the New Freedom Fest are like criminally underrated. They're not really that famous. And then later in the day, right as it was about to close, I got it signed by this guy in his bluegrass band. His name was Mike Munford. He was a little on the older side. Like, he looked like he was about in the 70s. This was 5 years ago. And he signed my yearbook with like a little smiling banjo. I forget one of his crew members was on mandolin. His name was Mark McLaughlin. He signed it, and then his bandmate Tom signed it. Tom played the guitar, and his bass player Steve Street signed it, I think. And starting in 2019, I got people to sign some of my old yearbooks from before that haven't got the chance to be signed. And then, of course, they did not have it in 2020 because, of course, COVID. And it was all planned out for 2021, but I think they kind of canceled it because that's when the Omicron variant virus was going on. And then it returned in 2022, and that's when we saw the John Prine guy. And last year, you saw there's that little short of me playing. That's at the Instrument Petting Zoo. And it has all these instruments you could try out, even if you're not a musician. Like, it has this hammer dulcimer, a regular dulcimer, a couple fiddles, banjos. They have a tenor banjo and a banjo uke. That's what I have. I have a tenor banjo, 4 strings, and a banjo uke. Excuse me. But, yeah, and that's hosted by this woman named Amy Hopkins, who's in her like 60s, I guess, somewhere in that age range. And she usually hosts that. All those instruments that are at the petting zoo belong to her. She has this like little string shop that's also of course in New Freedom, and it's kind of a couple blocks away from my house. And it's called Stringworks. It's a string repair shop. You can repair like guitar strings, bow hair for fiddle strings, etc. And I had an internship there for a while. I'm probably going to return to it eventually. I kind of went on hiatus since last Christmas, mainly because we were getting kind of busy. But yeah, Amy Hopkins. I'll put a link to her site in the description below. And I was kind of playing with her. She was playing fiddle in that little jam video that you saw, little short from last year. I was playing one of the mandolins. Yeah, it was pretty sick. And this year I was kind of fooling around with a cello. I'm not exactly, like, I do not have a cello here at my house. but they're fun to play every now and then. I don't own one, and whenever I see one, I kind of like to get my hands on it because that's something I don't do very much. But yeah, so yeah. And talking about the horses I rode in 2019, I rode one named Sport. And in both 2022 and last year, I rode a one named Star. And this year, I rode one named Chance. Yep. And yeah, it's a pretty fun thing. They sell these like kind of things for fall. My dad got a skull candle, and they sell and they have like little bonkies truck there, and I got a rainbow snowball. It's so good. It's so cool looking. And there's a bonkies right near my house. Yep. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say. Something that Miss Amy Hopkins taught me is that violin pegs are harder to tune than guitar because you have to like give them a firm push, and that's why they have like the fine tuners like right here. Yep. And one of the other instruments there was a resonator mandolin and a banjo mandolin, and all that. And there was a couple guitars there. Some like xylophone like instruments like the bells. And there was a wooden one. There was a couple drums. There was some steel drums. It was pretty kick-ass. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do there. Yep. And I see some of my old friends there, my old school classmates. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say. And I'm gonna make another video coming up after this. It's gonna be me singing a song about the end of summer. But spoiler alert, it's not Summer's End by John Prine. And one other announcement. Tomorrow we got 3 birthdays. Bruce Springsteen is going to be 75. Ray Charles and also John Coltrane. I made a post of that a year ago tomorrow. And speaking of Bruce, 45 years ago today and yesterday, that's when he had his the classic No Nukes concert. That was a kick-ass version of The River right before it came out. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say. Stay tuned for my end of summer cover. Thank you.